I was trying not to pay attention. Hello and welcome to Nerdist Book Club, live on Nerdist YouTube and Geek and Sundry's Twitch channels. I'm Rachel Heine, and joining me as always are my friends and co-hosts Hector Navarro and Maude Garrett. Hey guys, wine time.
Hi, we got to pour one out for our little dude.
Pour one out for Levitas, the baby dragon boy.
I choked up.
It's so sad. I really wanted him to choose a new writer and like live his best life.
No. Yeah.
But they, that's how they get you. They
get you.
It's a character that is you love, but isn't necessarily the main character, and you feel for him, and then they, spoiler alert, but hopefully you did the reading, kill him off. So sad. Also in the script, I forgot to change the name, and I'm really glad that I didn't accidentally say I'm Maude Garrett, because I can't do an Australian accent. Otherwise,
I'm Maude Garrett. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. In case this is your first time, Nerdist Book Club is exactly what it sounds like. It is our online book club where we read all of our favorite books. We've read a lot of favorite books, and we read new books in all sorts of genres, primarily, fantasy, horror, science fiction, some combination thereof, and preferably with wine. And these are our old glasses. We used to be a show called Alpha Book Club. We've been doing this. Did we talk about how it was the 4-year anniversary? Wasn't that last
October?
Yeah, October 2016 was when we first started the previous version of the show, Alpha Book Club, for a streaming service that no longer exists. But now we're here, and it's on YouTube.
That's the theme of the day.
Yeah.
Theme of the day.
Look, there's a lot of streaming services, and not everyone asked for a million streaming services, but everyone put one out. So some of them are gonna go away, but I'm glad, because that means that nobody has to pay monies to hang out with us right now while we talk about this book. We just finished His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. This is the first volume of the Temeraire series. I know that Nathan is already on book 3.
Four.
What?
Nice.
4 already.
I'm probably going to breeze through a lot of them now that I don't have to be held back.
I don't believe Nathan. I think he's doing cliff notes. I do not believe. There's no way to get to
guys, when was the last time that Nathan actually really liked a book?
That's true. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm
only doing this because of I've been told to.
Hector, do you believe that he read all of that? Are you calling him out right now?
How can you read that much?
I love a lot of the other books.
I can.
But I feel like we found one that has really resonated. And I feel like if you like sort of like companionship with animals, if you like the Napoleonic era and sort of like ancient war and war structures and warfare, if you love the British Ponzi dialogue and exchanges.
Which Hector does not. But also British dudes kind of learning that maybe being a Ponce is not that great. Being taken down a peg, always love that.
Lawrence clutches his goddamn pearls.
So much. He is, oh my, he's so scandalized all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
I would make so much fun of him if I were a dragon writer. I'd be like, Lawrence, look, I'm in your room. Haha. I would just give him so much shit.
Yeah.
Is this untoward?
Is that a clavicle? Was that a clavicle? Oh, buddy. You like that? What are you? Just beads of sweat pours down his face, and Tamarai's like, I like clavicles.
Wait, number one, Captain Heine.
Captain Heine, I assure you. Oh, you'd be a dragon rider captain as well, right?
Guys, do a voice. Do it.
What? You want me to? I'm not going to fulfill your dragon riding fantasy, Rachel.
No, not that.
You talk to Lawrence in your own time, in your own head.
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
Okay. Maude, will you do it?
Oh, I did a very good Temeraire impersonation if you're listening to the book.
Oh, hello, yeah. I listened
Lawrence.
Do it again.
You're my favorite, Lawrence. How exciting. I am Temeraire the dragon.
No, Maude, that's E.T. You're doing E.T.
I listened to some of it, and because I started listening to it and immediately it was when we first started the book and was like, I can't handle this. But then I was doing a bunch of stuff and wanted to make sure that I finished it. So I started, and I have the sort of sync from Kindle to Audible. And it really did remind me of Dune because he uses all the same voice.
Yeah, see?
And so all the lady voices, I was like, what
so bad
happening? Yeah, they're not.
Oh, I'm Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nerdist has asked the chat from 1 to 5 stars. What would you give this book? Black Belt says 4 stars. Miss Necromancer says 3.75. Brad gives it a solid 2 to 3. The last act makes it a 4-star. The first 2 acts are a solid 2 to 3, and then the last act makes it a solid 4-star book. Polo says 4 stars. Bruce gives it 2. Aaron, who's Game Wizard, says 4 stars, but only because I wasn't able to finish this one for book club, but will finish it. Michelle, M. the cartographer, says, I think it's 4 stars. It's pretty breezy. Nathan, 5 stars. Yep. Jimmy says 3 stars. Adam says 4 or 4.5. And everyone, give Adam's mum some great wishes because she's just freaking kicking cancer's butt right now. Ian says 4 stars. Stay Peaceful says 2 to 3 stars. 2 for Max. So we're getting everything from a 2-star to a 4-star. Rach, where are you?
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before the show and how annoying it is that Goodreads doesn't allow half stars, because I would probably give it, actually, Miss Necromancer, if we're getting that granular, I agree with 3.75. I really liked it. It does, much like you feel, or 3.5, whatever, it feels like, I think Hector at the beginning, you were saying it is sort of this like setup for the series. So, but I really love the world. I love the characters. I love the dialogue. We can get into our takeaways from this section, but I overall really liked it, and I'm looking forward to reading the next ones. Maude, what would you give it?
Look, if listening to it, I'm giving it a 2. If I were to read it, it may have been a 3.
Yeah.
But because I was listening to it, and Temeraire does sound like this.
Yeah.
And, every time Catherine or Emily or Jane had any sort of dialogue, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And
not
that,
great with the female voices.
But also like talking about a somewhat sort of like war setting with formations, it just turned into wah, wah, wah in my ear. Like,
yes. And that is also part of my critique for this section, but also like, I think reading it and then sort of like reading it to kind of get generally what is happening, and then going back and being like, oh, okay, now I understand kind of what they're doing. Hector, how many stars would you give it?
First of all, I definitely pictured Mr. Ben Whishaw, the voice of Paddington, and our current Q as like the voice of Temeraire. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I love that.
Right? A youthful sounding. Look up Mr. Ben Whishaw. He's in the current season of
Yeah, you'd know him. He's also from
James Bond.
Oh, yes, he is.
Cloud Atlas.
He's only 5'9". He looks so tall.
Yeah, because
he's a tiny boy.
He's a skinny boy. He's a skinny boy.
I don't mind the skinny, just the short.
No.
I don't mind the short.
5'9" is not short, ladies. 5'9" is
we're just saying compared to us, we're giantesses.
Right. We're
giant women. We're not normal. The average female height for a woman, I think, in America is like 5'3" or 5'4". Yeah.
Wow.
So
5'10" for a man, and of course I'm 5'11", so I'm taller than the average man.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Because you are both giantesses, Amazon women. That's right. Well, next time I run into Ben Whishaw in LA, I'm gonna say, oh, you know what? I have the perfect friend I'd like you to meet. Actually,
I don't mind.
Okay, great. Kicking over.
I have dated from 5'7" to 6'5".
So Ben,
I don't care about height. It's the men who care.
That is true. That is, in my experience,
for me. I'm not. No, for me specifically. A lot. I have many male friends. I know the 6 foot and above thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. And also, I've had female friends who are real petite, real tiny, and they're always the ones that do this bullshit line. They're like, it's weird. The only guys that hit on me are over like 6'4", and I'm like, no, no, you know, also you. It's 2 to 10.
The only ones that you are receptive to.
Boom, boom. Yeah. There we go. Maude gets it. So, what would I give the book? Well, I gave it on Goodreads 1 star.
Which is fine. We don't always have to agree. I feel like you guys liked The Gunslinger way more than I did. That was the
He was poetic with his words. This is I agree with Michelle completely. This is a very breezy, effortless read.
Yeah.
In fact, fun guys, the last couple of after shows, we've tangented because
it's not a really deep book.
This isn't a book where you can really masticate on it.
Good word.
I know. I like it a little too much. There's power behind it, but it just simply means chewing. And with that, I feel like it's good COVID book material.
Yes.
Because it's fun, because it's adventurous and exciting, because it's mixing fantasy and reality. So it means you can kind of step out a little bit and get transported to a different time. And it's not going to challenge. Like, guys, we went through Black Leopard Panther together.
Oh my God.
Red Wolf. Yeah.
Which was so great, but like.
It was a challenge.
Exhausting.
It was a challenge. Emotionally
exhausting and just like so much. Yeah, I agree to Nick's Wing 38. I liked the book, but there were parts I wish had been more fleshed out, like the relationship between Jane and Lawrence. Yes, love Jane. And that's the point that you were, I think, making at the beginning, Hector, as well, is that, there are like, 9 books in the series?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is going to be fleshed out more. A lot of the reveals, especially in the epilogue, like that is a very exciting place to sort of go to the next book.
Hold on real quick. Jane, I don't know if they'd even described her, but what is this character that I've seen in movies or television shows? She's got a very British accent, but she is not pretty. She's a very stocky woman. I'm talking like dark hair, very severe bun pulled back, jodhpurs. Riding jodhpurs, and who talks in a very matter-of-fact kind of voice. And if that needs to happen, then yes, I suppose I will breed with you. And like that's exactly who I pictured in this moment. But nothing.
You're thinking of a specific actress?
Yeah, but or like a trope.
It is a trope for sure, and it's it's almost like a
Jane in jodhpurs.
Almost like a younger Molly Weasley. Like if Molly Weasley wasn't like a mom, like a married mom.
What's a
jodhpurs? Are riding pants.
Riding pants.
Yeah, with the poofy, the things on the side. Are you describing Miss Trunbull from Matilda? Like
kind of?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, a little bit.
But like not so awful.
Correct. She was evil.
Yeah.
But the vibe she put out was
Jane's more like neutral good.
Right.
Yeah, right. And Jane, I think, is not quite as intense looking as well. I think, like he was saying, she wasn't unhandsome. She just has this gnarly scar, which I think is dope.
That is cool. I would like to defend my but just explain a little bit on my rating process, because
Absolutely.
I don't want to make people think that I'm dismissive or like bashing on stuff. No. And again,
I don't think anyone would think that, but please go ahead.
Right.
Because you are
we were saying, when we were talking about how we like books differently, I mean, we've all been honest when we've been doing the show. So if we're doing our honest job, we will like this stuff differently.
Of course.
3 different human beings. But you guys asked me before we started too why I gave it 1 star. And it was because I base it off of the actual description that's on Goodreads. And 3 stars is liked it, 2 stars is it was okay, and 1 star is did not like it. 4 stars.
I missed that earlier. That's where you were getting that from.
4 stars is really liked it. 5 stars is loved it. I tend to kind of stick with that. So there's tons of movies that I think are fantastic movies that I'll give 2 stars or 1 star because I'm like, I couldn't connect to it, but I still think it's great. And then there's dumb stuff that I know is bad, but I'm like, that's 5 stars. Oh my God, I love this stupid thing so much. So 100%. that's where my 1 star comes from. It just means Hector did not like it, but it does not mean I think this deserves to be a 1 star book. I'm writing a review for the New York Times.
That's a really interesting point to make. Thank you, Diana. That's a really interesting point. But what I would like to bring to that is when you do reviews, TikTok, anyone, Lee, thank you. When you're doing a review, how much of it is personal connection and, you know, a skewed taste, or well, not qualified taste, a tailored taste to exactly what you want, and how much is it with a critical eye? Like if it was a really well-made movie that, I mean,
on the reviewer.
every single horror movie is going to be a 1 for me because I hate horror as a genre.
Yeah. That's why.
Well, it really depends on the reviewer, and it's something, you know, there's always some sort of hot take discourse on the timeline about someone's review, but it is really, there are different perspectives. When I used to write reviews, when I was a wee baby freelance writer, I don't write anything anymore. But I used to sort of frame it as, if you like these things that I like, if you have similar movie sensibilities to me, then you'll either like or not like this movie. You can bring some sort of personality into it. You can be much more about like the technical, the way that it's made. You can kind of combine, I think combining the two, where you can say like, is this a well-made movie that says something and blah, 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 and did I like it? Like you can kind of combine those two. And I think one thing that I love about Nerdist and all of our amazing writers there is that we all do have our like, you know, things that we love or types of pop culture that we love. And you can kind of follow the people who, you know, you end up liking all of their stuff. So, and Venn diagram is probably like spooky stuff with everyone, like on Slack, we like get into that. But even people who are scaredy cats and can't watch like Haunting of Hill House or anything. But, you know, if you like XYZ, you'd follow this writer. And so I like that personally without spoiling it necessarily. Or are you okay, Maude? What's happening?
I have a very playful dog who keeps bringing me the balls to throw. Brand new toy. Don't mind me.
Oh, I'm in here, but there's a cat right there.
There's my Iron Giant. There he is. He's always in the back. He's saying hi.
Pet time.
If you want, we can get into the overall thoughts for the book overall, and then go into the chapters.
Yeah, let's do it.
I would just say, again, to go back to my 1-star review, I'm not happy when I don't connect to a thing. I'm not.
Of course.
I'm bummed, and I think that I was trying to figure out why it didn't ultimately end up working for me. And I feel like the thing I realized is, in every sort of thing about the book, and every relationship or setting or idea, or just the two major smashings of dragon lore with, like, you know, early 1800s naval warfare lore, like those things smashed together, I feel as though me as a person, I am right on the precipice of really liking either of those things, but not quite there. So I think that this book is just a little tipped over into, you kind of have to, it helps if you kind of are super into this stuff. And me kind of on the outside, I'm like, okay, I don't know if is this my in? Is this my in? And people are doing double.
I would agree with that.
And I'm like, is this my, nope, not yet. That's not my in yet. How about, oh, nope, not that one, not that one. And by the end
I
of the
have
book,
to agree with you, Hector.
No, I totally am with you. And I think
match.
When I like something, it's usually because of the characters and whether it's, you know, whatever medium it is, it's like characters. If there are specific themes, obviously this one, I would not say there are like any, you know, major themes there except fun. But if there aren't good characters and there isn't at least like some sort of good story, I have a really hard time. But I agree with you, because I had a really hard time with the battles. The first one I got.
Yeah.
This last one in this section was like, I had to read and reread it, and they're based on, also my brain. Some of these are like the Battle of, where is it? I have the Wikipedia page.
They're based on real battle. Sure.
Yeah, it's a real battle. Where did it go?
Sure.
Anyway, I'll find it. The Battle of Trucklamama.
To connect it to Lovecraft Country, which we just read. Anytime there was a real historical pinpoint, I was like, oh shit, I know about this. And here's my in, right? Like they're using
Napoleonic history is not necessarily anyone's major forte unless you're super into it. The Battle of Trafalgar. Trafalgar.
Trafalgar.
What? Trafalgar?
The Battle of Trafalgar. I've heard that.
Trafalgar. Trafalgar Square was a place on the Monopoly map.
There you go.
That's extremely helpful. But
yeah, I thought you said Truffle Guard, and I'm like, I'd like to go to Truffle Guard, and I'd like to pay the truffle guards to let me in so I can eat the truffle.
That does sound good. That would be in Italy. But it, like, as soon as they mentioned that in the book, I looked it up to see if it was real, and I was like, God, I wish I had read this before because it makes so much more sense. But they don't really. Yeah. Which means that now I'm probably going to do a deep dive on the Napoleonic Wars before I read the rest of it. Because I like to know the context behind stuff.
It's the work that we didn't have to do, the three of us, when we read Star Wars Bloodline. Because we're so tapped into the Star Wars world that we're like, yeah, we know exactly where this is. It's before episode 7, but after episode 6, all that shit we knew. And there are people in this world who know that much about the Napoleonic Wars. And to them, this book is...
I want to meet them.
They're probably cool.
I'm sure they're cool. That's such a... I think anyone who has a really specific, like, thing that they're into, especially, like, history type stuff, I'm always like, tell me, I want to learn everything from you. Yeah, and also with Lovecraft Country as well, like, even though there were specific things that some of us didn't know, especially Maude, which, fair, you're not.
Yeah.
We're not born in America or raised in America.
I went into Lovecraft Country not even knowing what Jim Crow law was.
Yep.
And I've come out being like, whoa, alrighty, cool. Like the Tulsa Massacre in the 1920s. And then, the aftermath of, I learned so much. In fact, I read in a lot of reviews for the show being like, Lovecraft Country has taught me more about, these generations and decades of history than I did at school when I was
100%. So much more. And but I also think that it's such a different type of book as well, and different writing style, but it does leave enough context clues for you to further read on it, but you understand it. Whereas this one, I'm like, okay, where are they? Why are they sending people like all of the, I mean, even in my notes, it was like, there's a bunch of aerial strategy stuff, but I have no idea what they were doing. Like,
look at this
I
comment.
put it together afterwards.
Look at this comment. Nathan S. says, the Battle of Trafalgar, that's where Lord Nelson destroyed the French fleet. Today is the anniversary. Nathan followed up with, yes, I'm very cool.
Yes, you are. We just said. Wait, the anniversary is today? Yes, 21st of October, 1805.
We planned it. We planned it.
I'm a witch, y'all. I'm a psychic witch.
And next week is the anniversary of the actual Ashburn House. It's crazy.
Guys, I'm really liking Haunting of Ashburn House. When can we start talking about that? I'm like,
next week.
Next week.
Or
no.
Okay.
No, I want to get
What did you guys overall think?
I mean, when is Adrian Addy? But whatever, let's keep going.
I don't know, Maude, what overall your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a lot like Hector. I couldn't really connect to the subject matter. I think that making the dragons not only have unique and distinctive personalities, but then treating them like they are less than was a really hard sort of like lore for me to swallow and to understand. I think Lawrence is boring. I don't connect with him at all. He's he need
a little bit. It's again, we discussed this the past couple of weeks. It's a very interesting dynamic to have the dragon riders a little bit more lower class than the Navy folks, and he's coming in a bit upper crusty, and that's a great dynamic. But I think that ultimately I feel as though I would have connected to the inverse of that, where the dragons are like the cream of the crop, the jocks on big man on campus, and then like a poor person comes in like, I have to ride this dragon,
I feel like that's but I feel like that's been done. I don't know. I also as
because it makes sense.
But as you were saying that, Maude, I was just thinking, but human beings are terrible. And like, people in positions of power will subjugate whoever or what, like I was feeling bad, especially in this section for Praeorticus. I can't remember how to pronounce that.
Precursorus.
And or even like when the beginning of this section, chapter 9, when the French dragons attacked them on their way to the English Channel, and I was like, man, I bet these French dragons don't give a about Napoleon's ultimate goals, and they're just getting, you know, scratched up and fighting. And but because it's a series, which is annoying. It's annoying that it's not in this book.
Right.
Books should stand alone and then add on to the series. Like you need a complete story.
That's
like Harry Potter has a lot of flaws and its author has even more. But
yeah,
they're at least a complete story.
I think it's a valid criticism, but also I am trying to give them the B of the D, the benefit of the doubt, because the first Pokemon game on the Game Boy did not go into the politics of how it's dogfighting. But
is that
games
blue?
Later,
Pokemon Blue and Red?
Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and then
I played
Yellow.
Pokemon Blue. Can I just, as a tangent, tell you that I had like 0 life left when I had to face the final bosses, and so every time I would lose and go back to where I saved, but I couldn't like go out and do anything, so I never beat it. It was the most upsetting.
No.
It was the most upsetting thing. I should probably get a. Do you think that would be on the Switch?
That's such a flaw in the game.
It was, and they fixed it. I think in any game after that. That's
they had like a little med bay.
That was the only one I had until Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, well,
which is my kind of game.
But one of their games later, Pokemon like Black and White or Diamond and Pearl or something, had villains similarly to Killmonger in Black Panther, who's calling out all the bullshit of the world of Wakanda.
Oh,
the bad guys were like, we need to free all these Pokemon. They don't deserve to be
Black and White.
Right? And it's like, that's an interesting idea. Okay.
I bet there's an what are they called? Emulator? I bet there's some of those.
Maybe.
I want to play old Pokemon. But yeah, no, and I think that and obviously everyone's opinion is valid, but I can understand these like dirty, wild, like it's just so antithetical to the 18th century British way of living. But I do like, and Lawrence is super boring, 100%. But I do like that he starts to learn, like he's being kind of a hypocrite because when he meets Jane, but then like, sasses his men. But I do like that he's realizing that none of that stuff matters really, and how rude all of these upper class society men are. They're rude. We don't want anything to do with you,
They're so rude.
So Snap sequel is coming to Switch.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
When?
I don't know when, but I'm going to buy it immediately. It is the perfect game for me because I'm bad at
Rachel,
most of it.
Do you want redemption for the actual original Pokemon Red and Blue, or would you just want to replay that story? Because they have a couple of remakes that are, better games. Or do you actually want to get like?
No, I would play which ones? I have.
They're a little bit more open world-esque, so it's not your top-down sort of like.
No, that would be great.
Well, firstly, they on the Game Boy Advance, I don't know, 15 years ago, they came out with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which are remakes.
I didn't have it. That was I had like it was a gift from like and I just had that one game, I think. Then
they just came out with on the Switch, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. That's a remake of Red and Blue.
So I think I might have that, and I haven't.
Like Link's Awakening kind of thing. So it originally came out, but then they've remastered it for current gen.
Yeah. Well, because
I used to walk through the entire Link's Awakening.
Cool.
Oh, I definitely have. I've been playing Limbo on the Switch, and you just die over and over again. And I've had to look it up like a million. I'm like, I don't understand how to get past this giant spider. Anyway,
to get back into Mario, I got Mario 64.
Yeah, I got I've been playing that too.
The All-Star thing.
Yeah, the trio. Yeah.
I just got
Galaxy's best. I gotta get it fixed up to my emulator so I can stream it though. I've got the game.
Right. I told my sister about those new games because I got her a Switch as a gift for her birthday this year. And I've been telling her, because she's in, quarantine, just sitting at home. And I'm like, anytime you want a game, let me know. So she was doing research, and between that or Super Mario Odyssey, she picked Odyssey. So I just got that for her.
Odyssey is really, really good. Like 170 hours, really good. I completed it.
It's maybe
is that the one with the hat?
Yeah, it's maybe the best Mario game ever made. It's crazy.
What's the one with the cat suit? Because I played that on a different system, and I really liked that one.
Wait, the Tanuki suit is 3. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it looks like a cat, and you climb up the wall.
You think it's a Spider-Man video game? Right?
No.
PlayStation 4. Spider-Man.
Maybe, I don't know. It was my
Google image and then drop it to us.
Yeah, research.
See what I mean? The book is not interesting enough to talk about.
No, it is.
Guys.
Well, because I know that you guys don't like it, so I'm not gonna like gush about it. Oh, maybe he is a raccoon.
Felaritas, I'm
gonna go through some parts, but
Mario 3D World for the cat.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I can talk about this book. We can talk about this book.
I know. Anyway, it is a cat suit. But there is a what are they called? Raccoon, trash panda, raccoon one as well. Hold on, I really need
Tanuki. It's a
Cat Mario. These are about amiibos. Anyway, we'll talk about it in the after show.
Adam T asked, "Are we not going to talk about Veritas?" Well, we kind of already did. And
Rachel, no, we're definitely going to talk. Let's. We got their general. Let's go through.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
Stay on target. Because I really liked this book. I was confused by a lot of the battle stuff, but to be fair, I am always confused by battle stuff in books because I have a really hard time picturing it.
Actually, no, I would like to write a dissertation on fictional prose that nails combat one-on-one and all that kind of stuff. If you really do like and want to fall in love with how combat is written in like a one-on-one fighting capacity.
Yeah, tell me.
Flurries and parries and all that kind of stuff. The Legend of Drizzt, a series by R.A. Salvatore.
For D&D, right?
Forgotten Realms. Basically, it's a Dungeons and Dragons campaign following a drow. And what's fascinating about the drow underworld, the Underdark, is basically the women are superior and the men are really, really low on the food chain. And so he escapes. But one of he fights with dual scimitars, and one of his blades becomes like sentient. Oh my God. And it was
like the magic carpet kind of?
And wanted to hurt. But the way that they describe and he writes like how the combat goes, you can see it like move by move.
I want to read that. Let's read that.
I just reread the first one. I got about 12 books into that series.
I will check it out because it's
Rachel, in your mind's eye, you can see it.
Well, no, I mean, it uses the words in a way where it just makes sense with like all those kind of.
Hector, you're mocking me.
I know. I apologize.
I don't appreciate it at all. I wish I could picture stuff. And I feel like I used to anyway.
Hey,
we're getting into chapter 9 right now.
I'm
leading this up.
Don't have to picture stuff. We have read so many things. If the writing is good, then we can all follow the story and go along with it. I was just going to say, I just read a Star Trek book that had the term Underdark in it. That's cool. That's interesting.
Okay. We're going into the chapters now. Okay. We're going to discuss this book because it sounds like the rest of the book club enjoyed this book a tad more than y'all. So let's get into it. Chapter 9. So basically, we last left everyone where they're being told like, hey, you got to get to the English Channel ASAP because we need to swap out Lily, who's the leader of this formation of dragons, because she's the long wing, and we need to get her there so that we can send the larger formation there to where the Battle of Trafalgar ends up being. Happy anniversary. And I know, I don't know why I feel like I'm 13 again. This is what happens when I'm alone in my apartment for 8 months, is I just revert to 13-year-old Rachel. Was like, I don't know. So Lily's whole formation is attacked by the French and their dragons. Everything is chaos. This part I was very lost at. I had to read a couple of different times to kind of understand like that the bigger dragons that are in the formation, they get startled when something comes at them from above, which was the first thing kind of that Tremere learned when he started training with Maximus. But they just drop, and then it leaves Lily vulnerable, and Temeraire goes to kind of try to fight this giant dragon off from getting her, but she still gets pretty badly injured. And so they end up going to Dover at where all the other dragons are, where they're trying to sort of swap dragon and rider out to make sure that they have all of their bases covered. And while they're recovering from all of this, especially Lily, Lawrence notices that
Choiseul.
Thank you, Choiseul. And Catherine.
How did you, Hector, how did you say that? You're reading that because it's a French name.
You don't want to know.
French is. I tried to switch from Spanish to French in high school when I transferred schools, and I made it about 2 weeks. And I was like, I Italian, you can learn after Spanish, I think. Well, you can because I did it, but like French is just, the pronunciation is so out, even though visually it's very similar, it's just so outside the realm. So wait, I really do want to hear how you would pronounce it, Hector.
And I've asked the chat as well, like if looking at Choiseul, like how would you phonetically?
I would have said, and I probably will say as we go,
Choiseul?
Quite well. My brain goes to Italian, so it'd be like Choiseul, which is sounds kind of French actually.
Choiseul.
Ratuar, Chenery said with heartfelt agreement. Hello, Choiseul, pull up a chair.
Choiseul.
Yeah.
Choiseul.
Like you would tell Ejiofor?
Yes.
That's kind of what I thought too.
Choiseul.
So say it again.
Choiseul.
Choiseul.
Yeah. Choiseul. Like Choiseul, basically.
Choiseul.
Choiseul.
And Catherine Harcourt are growing closer, and the society boy Lawrence is like, they need a chaperone. I just find him funny because he's so stodgy and boring, and I like seeing him uncomfortable, and he's uncomfortable all the time. So I do enjoy that. And then Emily Rowland requests leave to go to Dover, which prompts Lawrence to teach Temeraire about the birds and the bees with humans and prostitutes, because all of his men are going to land to drink booze and lay with some women, and sex positive, it's cool. Lawrence is not cool with it. He's super uncomfortable, but I also enjoyed that part where
they're called boobs, Ed. Like, come on.
Aaron Brockovich.
Oh wow, deep. I haven't seen that in a million years. But I did like that because Temeraire is so sort of outside of this realm and likes to understand everything. He's sort of like, well, why couldn't Emily go? Blah blah blah. Does she not want? I'm not gonna go. Or is there said in the book, and he's like, I'm gonna need more wine for this conversation. It's like a real stuffy dude. Okay, you guys don't like it anyway. You're both like,
all I could hear was
is that because you were listening to it even though we told you not to?
Maybe indeed on the fortnight of
I'm just saying, if you had read it, maybe
I bought all the books. I did buy them. I have intention.
All of them?
No, the first 3.
Okay.
I didn't want to get too ambitious because I liked it, didn't love it. And I do think, yeah, like I said, I would have probably given it a 3 if I was reading it, but because I listened to it, the only problem is I go for an hour walk every morning. That is my reading time.
I listen exclusively now to books besides this one because I just couldn't stand it. Which yeah. credit you, Maude, for turning me on to audiobooks because I have ADHD and I like to do 500 things at once, and that is very helpful for me. But then we meet, as we talked about, Emily Rowland's badass mom, Captain Jane Rowland, who's got a sick scar across her face and just does not give a fuck. And she tells him, she kind of starts having conversations.
Well, she would give one. That's exactly what she was insinuating.
Exactly. Well, no, and it's interesting because he's sort of like, I also like in the, or at least from his perspective, third person, he's like, well, I ended up having some drinks with her and we ended up talking, and it's almost like the book is repressing him, but if you read between the lines, he's like, I don't know, it's fine. I'm just talking to this cool captain lady with a scar on her face. It's totally fine. I'm just learning about all these things. But she kind of explains like, no, Emily does not have a father who's like my husband. You know, they almost breed writers to take over for themselves when they are too old or pass away to ride their dragon.
See, that to me screams your life's purpose and our bloodline must continue this prestigious, amazing accolade of existence.
Mm-hmm.
So you could all, thinking of Harry Potter, which I'm sure later YouTube comments will be like, why do you always compare things to
Harry Potter? Okay, for everyone, Harry Potter is our blank canvas. It is our starting board. It is our comparison. That is
exactly. It doesn't mean that it's
7 months. We spent 7 months of our lives together, you know, in
the same room. Remember that?
Yeah. We're not praising it and saying it's the end all be all best example of YA fiction or fiction. We're just, like Maude said,
it's a good basis for comparison that a lot of people have read or seen or understand, and
that we thoroughly like spoke about, analyzed. It was
basically a whole year of our on and off. Yeah. But I do think that you look at you know, Harry, and he comes from a Muggle world. He's not really from and Lily especially, she's not from royalty, but it's passed down through families, but they're still seen as less than you know, the wizard Nazis. And so I just think because it's so wild and ferocious and people don't understand it, it makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And they're almost within their own world where they're better off not being that way. You know, they have a better time with each other. They bond more. We see that later, which I will get to, but I totally understand what you're saying. And I didn't think of that when I was reading it, but I do agree that like riding a dragon is super cool and should be, you know, the be all end all of positions. But I also I feel like the Chinese, like other cultures at this time, it probably is. Like in China, it is super, super important to be a dragon rider. But in England, where they're repressed and inbred and all sorts of fun stuff, like they just don't get it. No offense to anyone British, but it's true.
We're talking about British people in the early 1800s, so nobody can be offended right now, okay?
As someone who was colonized by the British people in the 1800s, I think that 1900.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of cultures were colonized.
I mean, we're all in that same club, yeah.
Australia. 1700s.
Wow.
There you go. Same.
Yeah. Same.
Ish.
They made a joke about that in this book, didn't they? Didn't they say like, soon you'll be throwing tea in the Hobbit? Didn't they make that joke about the Boston Tea Party? Or is that from something else?
They may have.
Somebody said that it was, and they mentioned the Americas at one point where they were like,
they did mention,
what was I supposed to do?
And there's Newfoundland, because I know it from history, but I did not look it up before. But I know that I read about it. Oh, my cat just went to the
Same for Canada. Thank you, Miss Necromancer. Yeah. They made there was some joke about it. Again, this seems all old-timey and almost ancient, but like the time period in this book and this war is more recent than the founding of the United States of America, 1776. So like this happened after Hamilton, everybody. That's where we're at in the timeline.
Donald Trump is a white supremacist.
Wait, what?
Oh, it's just David Diggs. Every time anyone mentions anything to do with Hamilton, I think of David Diggs, and then I think Donald Trump is a white supremacist, and then that gets in my head, but I must say it out loud because
it's true. Also, both of my cats just went to the bathroom, and it smells horribly.
I forgot to feed Zelda at 5 o'clock, so she's looking like a dead corpse next to me. And
okay, I'm getting through these chapters though, because we also.
Do you want a hand with them? Do you want me to read and you flesh it out?
No, it's not. It's a whole. It's not like dogs. It's a whole endeavor. It's cool. It's fine. I could probably turn on. Anyway, it's fine. So we're talking about Jane, who is explaining to him this sort of process, especially with the female writers. The long wings will only take women, and so that feels especially like they're trying to sort of continue that line. But also she's like, yeah, you'll probably, you can get married if you want. You'll probably end up, having kids. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted you to knock out a couple for dragons down the line. And she's like, I'd offer, but I'm kind of busy. Maybe Catherine, I don't know. And she's like, oh God, super scandalized. But then we have this moment where they're drinking all night, and he gets back to his room and is like, oh gosh, this could be untoward, but is sort of cool with it. He's like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal, because of course, when something happens to you, if you are a stuffy, selfish white dude, then you're like, oh, it affects me different. So then empathy, chapter 10. So Lawrence obviously gonna Lawrence and scolds his crew for bragging about going to Dover for some company. But he does feel like a hypocrite after his night with Jane, and he should. And then he and Temeraire visit the Channel Fleet, bringing news and parcels and mail and stuff to all these Navy men, a bunch of whom he already knew before. He had served with them previously. And this part I really liked, because you see him start to realize he doesn't get to this place, but basically what he comes off as when he started enjoying the dragons, where he's trying to, balance the expectations of the Navy and all of these rules that, the Aerial Corps has no way of knowing either. They weren't trained in that. And so they have this dinner, and his, one of the dragon riders is like, no thanks, I gotta keep an eye on my dragon. They get really nervous, sorry, which I totally understand. And the other captain who joins him just is like super excited to chat with all these Navy men, and doesn't realize like you can't speak unless the admiral speaks first. And no one responds to him. Everyone is so rude. And then at the end of the night, the captain that Lawrence was friends with says, and I can't imagine someone saying this about, I don't know, my cats. I suppose he is a valuable animal, and we must be glad to have him, but it is appalling that you should be chained to such a life and in such company. And Lawrence of the beginning of the book, he probably would not have said that because he's annoyingly polite, but he definitely thought that. He was like, I don't want this, please no, I will do it, but I don't want to. And in this one, he's like, get away from me. So bad. And I thought that was good growth for him.
Yeah.
He had a few alpha moments, which was good for Lawrence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where he like, I think before at that dinner, he wouldn't have started a conversation with the fellow writer just because he obviously just didn't know. It's not like he's, pissing in their dish or something on purpose. He's just trying to talk to them.
And just a sidebar too, Rachel, like I do suppose that you have valuable animals and we must be glad that you have them, but it is kind of appalling that you should be chained to such a stinky poop in that room and in such company right now.
Don't you talk about my cats that way. They can poop smelly poops anytime they want. Normally I'm not on camera and I just light a candle and it's fine. No different than growing up with brothers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have brothers, you know that all kid brothers like to poop in sandboxes.
Yeah, they poop in the box.
Maude
Especially
knows.
because one of my brothers is 18 years old. It wasn't. So continuing, there's all of this battle strategy after they get the news from the fleet in Dover, and he goes back to his admiral in the aerial corps. This was super confusing to me. Once I like read through it and then kind of thought about it, I was able to piece some of it together that Napoleon is potentially sending additional dragons to Cadiz, where Lawrence's old Navy pals are stationed. And Admiral Lenton is debating whether or not to send Jane Rowland's big dragon, Exicidium, and that formation to protect the people. And I also looked at a map to sort of figure out, okay, they're sort of, they've got their aerial fleet here in the channel and they're protecting a little bit of the Navy. And then they've got a huge Navy situation in Cadiz, and they're trying to send more dragons there, which I guess is the whole premise of Temeraire in the book. And they're just trying to figure out, let's shuffle these dragons around so we have enough big boys and girls to protect against the Napoleonic armies. And Lawrence and Jane have dinner in her quarters, and he is like, oh, this is pretty improper, and thinks that she's going to proposition him. And she's just like, do you think my daughter is good at this? Because I really don't want to just follow the line if she's not going to be a good rider, which again, Rankin, you don't want a Rankin situation. But then they smooch, and I did yell, let them smooch at the end. I'm sad we didn't like get more of that.
That was a strange moment for me. It's almost like it felt like she was almost, I read it, that she was like, basically, what do you think of my daughter? And do you have any feeling there? And when he was like, she was
I didn't read it that way at all.
She's a very good student. And that's when she goes, good, come here, boy.
I didn't read it that way at all.
Because
I read it as like,
from then.
She had been thinking about it, but I think she was nervous to ask him about her daughter because she's not normally a nervous, sort of timid person, but she has this connection to her daughter that she seems like this kind of brash, like, I don't care about anything. It's cool. I didn't even want kids, but I needed to have them. Like, I think she's worried about being vulnerable about her daughter. And then they get that out of the way and she's like, come here. But that's an interesting read.
Could it also be possible that she is, I know Maude was talking about her earlier, and the type of personality that this character kind of put forth in a short amount of time, very direct, very, I don't have a husband from this daughter, but I had her because of our job.
Out of wedlock.
Could it be possible too that she just kind of wanted an in with teacher? So she was like, I'm going to talk to this guy about something. My kid, how's my kid doing in class? Is my kid doing good? Yeah, your kid's great. Okay, great. Smooch, we're going to do it.
I sort of read it as, because the conversation they have earlier with the Admiral is basically like,
right.
Are you ready to split up these dragons? So she's thinking strategically, but she also, I read her as someone who doesn't like to show a lot of emotion. She makes a lot of jokes. She's very like brash.
Yeah.
So I read that as her being like, I don't like being sensitive. I don't want to talk about my kid. Like, she doesn't want to be a mom.
Right.
So it doesn't want to be seen as a mom because she's a badass captain. Totally fair. And then they smooch. Then we have Choiseul.
I'm also hearing from Matt Caron that it's Choiseul.
Okay, Matt. Just kidding.
That's just how he would pronounce it.
Thanks for watching, Matt. I'm sorry to be a dick. Also, everyone go watch after this, The Haunting of Wayne Manor that Matt Caron just cut with Fly Manor and Batman.
It's very good.
We basically have who is a traitor and tries to take Catherine and Lily hostage, which I felt bad for him too, because he really wanted to protect his own dragon. And so he was sent to take not Temerair's egg, but he had already hatched. But we learned that Temeraire was supposed to be a gift from the Chinese emperor to Napoleon.
Yep.
So that's bad.
That was interesting. Because it got me a little bit confused because we're all saying, no, Temeraire is an imperial. He's imperial. It's an imperial.
I know. And then as soon as at the epilogue, yeah, you're like, that's why they're called Celestials at the end of the book. So there's this whole sort of traitor situation. And I just think it's so, like, I understand him wanting to protect his dragon and doing whatever it takes, but like seducing a young captain and sort of like getting her, even though it seemed like he had feelings for her, but it was just so gross, just using her to try to figure out either to kill Temeraire or then kidnap her and her dragon. And that was gross, but he's a traitor, so we gotta execute it. And then we have this final battle, which was deeply confusing to me, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway from the final battle was, because I kept thinking about dragons from recent dragon lore, How to Train Your Dragon basically is being like one rider per dragon. And we've talked about how hard it was for me to wrap my head around, okay, there's like a team of dudes, a team of people on each of these huge.
Well, they say Temeraire is the size of one of the Navy ships when they dock in Dover. Huge. So like they're
I think my takeaway from the battle was I was ultimately a little bit disappointed that I wasn't getting more dragon specific stuff, because ultimately everything sort of just turned into naval warfare, but up in the sky to me. For example, I'm picturing dragon warfare as being super fast, and that's kind of how the book describes it. I mean, Lawrence is like, oh, when I got on a Navy ship later, we were going through the wind and it was like slow.
Oh, it was nothing, yeah.
Compared to how fast I'm used to going. So when they're up in the sky, they're having these battles, and then they get to a point, just like in movies like Master and Commander or other, like, you know, Navy warfare, all the team was like, should we board them, sir? And Lawrence has to be like, I do it. And then they're like boarding another dragon. And I'm going, wait, are there huge animal creatures just flying like this close to one another for long enough for them to make a call? I'm like, aren't you going to break away and do some cool dragon shit? How are you having?
But they have all of the signals and stuff. They're trained to like do certain stuff.
Yeah, so that's why
formations are boring, and why Temeraire is like, I don't want to do those, and exactly. I don't think he will in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's fast, but dragons are sky battleships. That's the thing where I was kind of like, oh, it's a little bit of a bummer that the whole dragon becomes a ship with a head on it that can talk. Like, how we doing? Good. I'm like, well, you should, have a little bit more of that
adventure, independence.
Became a little bit, I think,
a dragon, not not an extension of a battleship. I agree.
Where the passion and the interest in naval warfare, which is very interesting, right? Don't get me wrong, ends up kind of coming to the forefront in the story. And I get it.
I'm not super interested in naval warfare, and that's why I think I would have given it 4 stars if not for this last huge thing where I was like, I don't know what is going on.
And not
yeah. But I finally figured it out, and I did like that. Even though I'm like team duty is lame, and I'm much more about like what is the right thing to do versus like what is legal or duty, whatever. But I did like that Temeraire sort of was like, well, it's because we have to try because our friends are out there doing it, so we have to back them up. I did like that part. And then we learn in the epilogue, but Temeraire gives this like crazy sort of, not even like a roar with sound, but like a like
Godzilla yell.
Yes.
Maude, yes. Let's hear your Godzilla. That's really good. That's really good, man. That even have that crunch in there that you need for the good Godzilla yell.
Mm-hmm. Gravelly, yeah. And it's got to shoot up the plates
with
of
blue.
Yeah.
Do that whole thing.
That was cool. That part was super cool.
I liked that. And then in the epilogue, we basically learned that Temeraire is a celestial. They're the only dragon breed that has this divine wind, which is a cool term.
Yeah.
And
that's when it started feeling like Pokemon. They used Divine Wind. It was super effective. I was like, yes.
Cool.
I don't know enough about Pokemon, honestly, except I like these ones because they're cute.
You will.
You will. You will be. But sorry. I do like that it sets up the next book of sort of being like, yeah, the Chinese emperor is going to be super offended that you stole his gift to another emperor and you're not an emperor and these are only supposed to go there.
See, with Hector's theory, even better if a poor pleb was the newfound owner of this.
That'd be cool.
Like, yeah.
But listen, you know,
again, he is still compared to an emperor.
Exactly.
He's the third son of a. Yeah. He's sort of mid-level.
I have full confidence that all of the things we discussed tonight and this past couple of weeks, whether they're things we loved about the book or things that we felt like were lacking, could easily be addressed and explored in later books. You know, I think if
or in an adaptation that takes the sort of lore and history and character development, and then
if I made this a show, this would be a 1-season, 10-episode show, and it would be extremely expensive, and it would be like, hey, you're going to get more of the exploratory stuff in seasons 2, 3, and beyond. But I almost
would bring in, having not read the next two, I think it's good to bring in sort of context from later ones, even with his Dark Materials, which was quite good. I have some complaints, but generally definitely better than the movie.
You know what was a movie that was
they bring in the subtle knife in there, which but like only a little bit, just to give it
was subtle.
So it's not so jarring.
The movie Annihilation was good, having only looked at the first book. They didn't bring anything from book 2 and 3, and that was still able.
Well, they also didn't.
This is after show conversation.
Yes. Okay. Homework. I'm gonna give homework. That's true, and I do really want to talk about Annihilation. But you guys are right that we keep getting sucked into tangents because this isn't a super deep book, but that's okay. I needed it. And then I watched all 3 How to Train Your Dragons. I'd only seen 1 and I cried like a baby, like a big baby. Your homework for next week is to read The Haunting, Hector, help me, of Ashburn. I have one too. I don't know why I didn't bring it. The Haunting of Ashburn House. Yes, that's the whole book. You have to read it. We've been reminding you. I mean, you don't have to, but we would like it.
It's an easy read. It's good.
It's a quick, I've
been reading it at night though.
Are you spooked?
Well, I mean, I have to go to the bathroom before I go to bed, and it's just like, there's the shadows, you know.
Well, we're going to cover the whole book next week in a sort of special spooky Halloween episode. But after that, we have to read a new book, and we need your help. So vote on our new poll. Nerdist Lee's going to put the poll link in the chat. This is what we're going to read in November, and we need you to vote. And we're going to close the poll, I think, at the end of this week, so you have time to get the book that we choose. And after some feedback as well, we are going to have the next poll a lot sooner, so that if you are ordering from a local bookstore or anything like that, we can at least predict what the next one is. What is happening?
I just voted and I did not expect the book that's in the lead to be in the lead. Dang.
Oh, I haven't looked yet. So here are your choices, because I want to give a little brief blurbs. So your choices are The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White, which we've talked about doing before, which is an inventive, grotesque, and completely unexpected reimagining of Frankenstein. Second choice, Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, in development for, I think, a Hulu show, which is a terrifying twist on classic Gothic horror set in glamorous 1950s Mexico. Vicious by V.E. Schwab, a masterful tale of ambition, jealousy, and superpowers, which has been described to me as the homoeroticism of Magneto and Xavier, but if they were both bad. So yeah. And then the last one by an icon, Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, in 2025. Oh God, that's so soon. With the world descending into madness and anarchy, one woman begins a fateful journey towards a better future. That's a little more vague. You can check out previous episodes of Nerdist Book Club on Nerdist YouTube or Geek and Sundry's Twitch. like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. And Maude, where are we going right now?
Yeah, look, we didn't hit on everything from His Majesty's Dragon because we did sidetrack and tangent a lot. We will be covering the fact that there was a hostage situation and Catherine had to be a kick-ass woman literally to get out of a bit of a situation, and that Choiseul was a traitor and what that meant. We'll also be going into Levitas and how you guys felt about that, if you thought it was handled well.
Levitas.
The Rankin situation where Lawrence I pictured him grabbing him by the ear and dragging him out to do his due diligence with that one. So we'll be talking about those as well. And we're going to be talking about Annihilation by the sounds of it. So head over. If you're on the Discord for Geekbomb, we hang out in #reading and we'll jump onto the book club phone chat, the voice call there. If you want to get involved and find the Discord, it's actually open to everyone. Unfortunately, though, anything to do with PWR, playing, watching, reading, that is a paid privilege that you can get at patreon.com/geekbomb and sign up for the lowest tier. You'll get all that access and chat to all three of us every single week after book club. We will see you there. Thank you so much for watching Nerdist Book Club. Please make your vote count in every sense of the word.
Vote. Also, super worth it to subscribe to that Patreon.
Oh. There you go. Thanks, guys.